Hello and welcome to this podcast to Nowhere. My name is Allie with aMarieSpeaks, and this episode is going to be a bit of a behind the scenes kind of extension of my Deconstructing Distortions series, which is a video series where I break down a single term used by the eternal student, as I like to call it, that has been full of distortions and has been, ironed out and sort of to smooth it out and showcase the truth within those single terms. Sort of my own peeling back of the layers through spiritual work and on this journey of what I call the eternal student. The kind of circumstances and scenarios that you encounter when doing that kind of work over time for yourself. And so I have this series, and last episode that I just put out, 8, was on the term perfect. And so I thought I would talk a little bit more about some of what perfection can really mean and is to me, even. And also the quest for it in my own life, and pulling back deeper a little bit about what the truth of that word can really mean. I also think I might tag in and sort of tie a bow up together using the Deconstructing Distortions episode link en route, and also my recent podcasts about magical math and perfect imperfect sharing and the golden ratio and magical math. Did I say that? Mother Nature, this sort of divine feminine and masculine energies and how they come together into a wonderful bow that I'll tie up about perfection, and how everything really can have and does have its own divine state of being and purpose. And within that, I would say, lies perfection. So yeah, to sum it up, you could probably click off here and that could be the message. But I think I will talk a little more, ruminate on this here for this episode here on my podcast. So thank you for joining me. If you will, stick around. I will clear ground around this topic today. So just for notes and reference, today is July 21st, 2025, and I haven't been numbering season 2, this Lost in Transition podcast to Nowhere. I have a couple of different sort of subheadings that go with it to align the content in different angles, sort of series is plural, yeah. Bear with me, I'm drinking my coffee this morning. Thank you for bearing with me and not allowing me to have to go back and do editing. Off the cuff. Anyways, the podcast today, I'd like to bring in a couple of different perspectives and also kind of give myself a minute to reflect on the many faces of perfection that all these different perspectives have brought in for me. At the moment, I have Course in Miracles going on. If you're familiar. If you're not familiar, it's a wonderful teaching and text. There's daily prompts for one day for a year, 365 of them. And you're supposed to, they're quite simple, as in quick, to be thought about, a simple sentence, but they take up the whole day and are wonderful avenues of thought, exercise and spiritual practice. Couldn't recommend it more. Just as a side note. Don't get anything out of it, of course. I never would. Freely offered service, for sure. Which is kind of another thing that really positively aligned service, system alignments, laws, the processes and procedures that we seek to operate with when we seek to have a good balancing, good balancing, that sounds good, a well-balanced system within ourselves. This overall slight positive neutrality. We don't have to be over the top. It isn't a hard right or anything like that. It's a gentle curve. But the alignment, the calling is drawing you, me, those who seek service to others. Positive alignment is what I call it, or positive charge resonance, polarity. To have the background of my own learning and sort of inner points of gnosis versus, along with and in combination with these external cooperations, so to speak, from validation of seeing lectures or studies or, quote unquote experts or, people in the field, speaking on different things. About system operations, about energy transfer, about even electromagnetic resonance and laws that go along with interactions of that nature. If we think about information exchange, it's such a broad spectrum, and that has been information exchange across mind, body, and spirit. The different manifestations of what information, light, love can look like and come together as has been such a curiosity and an intrigue and a focal point of my own personal learning for the last couple of years. And to come at A Course in Miracles and Walter Russell now, and Walter Russell's, I've been a fan of him for quite a few years anyways, but A Course in Miracles I'm just coming around to, back around to, because in all honesty, I had read it many years ago, maybe even 20 years ago, early 2000s, and I did not, I was at a much different capacity, in a state of being than I am now. I was in my late teens, and a much different person, of course, at that time. So to come back around to that now, as well as after having already had my background intrigue with Walter Russell, with sort of other science-y kind of metaphysical references and teachings about, a diverse, I can't talk this morning, get with it, Allie. Well, wake up, Adrian. So stupid. That's like a tag phrase of mine that whatever. We have another sip of coffee and think. Having already accumulated touch points, and I'm not trying to say like I've studied these people into some kind of doctorate level and had, but just saying that I've had touch points of a couple of different books perhaps, or different materials, seen different lectures, people talking about it, depending on who and what it is, but all things about electromagnetic plasma, a water-based consciousness, the fourth state of water, cosmology, light, physics, chemistry, organic chemistry, one of my favorites, the we can get into, mathematics, of course, but natural mathematics, and I ran into this funny word yesterday. Oh, what was it called? Now I forget it. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. I was reading about, and the man's name is Indian, so it could probably massacre it. It's this constant. It's Cavalti's constant or something like that. This man, he's a mathematician, an Indian ethnicity, and he was speaking about these sort of magical constants. Of course, he wasn't. He's from maybe the 1800s, early 1900s. I forget when this sort of theory was presented. But the man I was talking, obviously the man doing the teaching was alive today. He's talking about this, the video I watched. But he called him or he called himself a natural mathematician or a mathematician of nature or something like this. I should have it's come up out of my memory, so whatever. Otherwise, I probably would have pulled the reference, but I just got a kick out of that. And I thought, that's what I am. I like that because math is super basic in an infinitely intelligent way. And rudimentary mathematics, building sequential growth, things like Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, what I was talking about perfect to perfect sharing, what we see with beauty and symmetry and fractal reproduction, templistic modeling, freedom within a flow, truth, and we tie in now music and beat and repetitional harmonies, seasons, organic time, the measurement of organic time, of course. And I'm going to try to keep focus on positivity and not get into negative inorganic inversions at this time. Because they are shadows. They are bent up, crumpled up pieces of truth. Let's just open up the paper here and see the whole picture finally again. And stop looking at balled up things and getting mad about them or whatever. Let's remember that they could only have been balled up, they can only have been bent over, it can only be a contortion because there is a truth underneath there. And nothing can actually, at the end of the day, completely degrade and, dissolve or disintegrate that organic, true template underneath. Because it is of something outside of physical dimensionality, something outside the constructs of this third to fourth dimensionality and densities that are clearly visible, that we reside within this place and space, that things are manifested within this carnal creation, this material world. But it follows laws and rules that are designed by infinite intelligence, and that shouldn't take away from the mystery, the beauty, the curiosity, and the perfections that have thought this up for the creating to be created through. I'm going to grab my charger here and get myself plugged in. Bear with it. Thank you. Ooh, I hope that's not too loud. Sorry if we've got headphones on and that click was loud. But having lots of different touch points for myself as references, and I mentioned Walter Russell specifically by name. There's lots of other wonderful names as well, that perhaps I'll put together. I mean, I have a list of, if you choose to go to my website and look under metaphysics, you see a bunch of starter people and points that I have put up. And lately I've been finding myself getting into classics and getting into ancient things more than ever. And at a different angle. And not just like ancient things either, but just older things in general. like Course in Miracles is from the 70s, but it's before my time, you know. But other than that as well, just having those more science-based touch points, also having some more spiritual, religious, theological, mythological, legendary touch points for myself as well before coming around to this kind of stuff. And really being able to have a diverse, both culturally and timeline-wise, like we should think evolutionarily. Like, what's a good word for man's growth over time, and thinking about ancient and contemporary and antiquity and all these different types of phases and stages that now we sort of are told are there before us, And having read lots of different books along lines of like Dead Sea Scrolls and the other Gospels that aren't considered to be canonized or whatever, and even books like the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the Emerald Tablets and Dead Sea Scrolls, I Ching, reading books on Zen monks, Chinese and Indian, and some different touch points. An autobiography from Yogi was many years ago now. I think it's 2015, perhaps. I read that. I might read that again pretty soon. That was such a breadcrumb touch point for me that brought the scientific and the spiritual, mental worlds all together, and gave such a trail for me to follow through into other spiritual realms over towards the Eastern world and towards times before, the 20th century, into learning and reading different published works and, recordings in that kind of way. And then through that, I started getting into sort of the revival of that was led in the early 1900s in America, in the Western world more, and reading Napoleon Hill or Neville Goddard and lots of Florence Scovel Shinn. I love her works. And then getting into more earlier time people like Louise Hayes and stuff, and self-help kind of, but healing in a wonderful, cosmic, godly-centered way. And of course there's lots of sort of New Age things, there's lots of occult, and there's lots of esoteric, which is swampy grounds to be trying to trudge around in if you are not familiar and you are not self-centered in a balanced way of seeking truth in a harmonious alignment for yourself as a service to all, right? In a service to others oriented positive alignment, which means that your self-to-readle, your system, overall accounting balance at the end of the day is at least 51% orientation of service to others. At 51% of the time, all the time, your thought processes, intention, your heart, your guts lie at what is best for the whole. Yourself being a reflection of the great whole. And trying at 51% capacity for yourself to treat yourself as you would treat another, and to treat others as you would treat yourself. Honoring sovereignty, honoring accountability, honoring unconditional love, honoring the perfect person they are underneath and the perfect person you are, and then giving the deserving communications and transactions and exchanges that are most harmoniously aligned for both and all, and for productivity, overall productivity for the whole at the end of the day. Because For me, I think God witnesses the whole, and it makes God very happy when it's at least 15% productivity overall in the whole. Just like your body. Think of how, as long as you know yourself, your cells, and your wellness is at a good sense of productivity, not too much, not too little, everything's pretty much golden. There's not really anything that will bother you too much, and you can go about the things that you need to do to get done. This is sort of what I consider to be that perfect, imperfect, perfection, imperfect perfections, and understanding that I talked a lot about this more concretely in my Deconstructing Distortions episode. So if you didn't watch that, I'll try to put a link in there too. If you're finding this on, but shoot, I'll put in the comments maybe if I get over there. I haven't been on that. I haven't been tuning in over there at all lately. Trying to tune out negativity and bombardments of hate, and there's just so much over there. But anyways, we sort of get this idea about perfect as this still image, and it's this epitome state, and nothing comes in or out of it, and it just is, and it's sealed and stagnant. That's not positive. It cannot be, and nothing can in this creation hold that state. That state, to me, is outside our capacity of manifestation and aliveness. It's from before and after. Yeah, it trickles through like all truth does, and then we sort of end up holding it like a carrot on a stick, or holding it like a movie star's poster on our wall, or a vision board, or whatever. This strict image that doesn't change, and we try to get there, right? But the point is, even when we do get there, we get the hardcore learning experience that it cannot be maintained, actually, and that it's so special, and that it's something to quest upon and to seek to maintain, because it so feels wonderful and is beautiful, and also because it cannot happen all the time, because in its rarity, because it had to have been an accumulation over this time to get you there. And just like even a movie star, she cannot hold that perfect, don't move, don't blink, Mona Lisa sort of still face from this angle. Everyone has to walk over to her best angle in the lighting only to stand there all day long, to be beautiful, to be perfect. Right? It doesn't work like that. In fact, a truly beautiful person that you look at throughout the day, the sun goes across the sky, and different angles and different lighting, she is more beautiful in that way, in a different way at that time. Because beauty is an observation and an appreciation of the now moment. And the now moment is ever changing. In its fleetingness is its beauty. Right? Same thing as the Greeks said in their mythology or whatever. The gods envy humans because of their short lives, because of their smallness. It's this sort of misinterpretation of it all that we try to jam ourselves into that as much as possible. Instead of accepting that it's actually there all the time. But again, sort of sometimes my overthinking kind of processy side of my brain will be like, well, then there's nothing to attain to, then there's no goal to want to get to, then everyone would sit around and do nothing, and what is that? But I don't think that's exactly true. I know there's a pulsating, driving service within myself that I have felt glowing, growing, motivating me. And it does change, and it does sort of steer me in a calling, magnetic pulled way of wanting to do a thing, wanting to make a thing happen, wanting to give a service, wanting to be of service, wanting to put something out there or share something. And I think if we quiet down, if we didn't have so many things out there that we were told to have or have to be like, we would be more organically flowing towards those things that we want to be like, and I think in general those are more likely to actually be positively aligned, actually be for your higher good. Because who really at the end of the day wants to be in a state of uncomfortability, wants to be hurt, wants to be harmed? We really don't want these things. We've been trained, forced, or done it, in a way to us already. It's been a role modeled way out there that we've chosen to take onto ourselves. Just like that perfect image, just like that perfect goal. That in cutting yourself off on organic development of getting to that goal, it takes all the fun out of it. It takes the mystery. It takes your own unique development out of it. And of course, I think there's sometimes it can be beneficial to close the gap and goals are met quickly. This is the other thing with creator consciousness and understanding what perfection is, because sometimes once you see that original perfection, the template underneath, and the truth of it, and you see how those sort of distortions and the wrinkles on top have happened, the crumple up of the paper, you just straighten it out. And it's like beautiful. And it shines through, and it's very quick. And other times, like I said before, it's a process of an uncovering that you have done the crumpling up, so this many different ways that imperfections can happen also teaches us so clearly that there's only one original, yet again, right? The one whole, the one law, the one truth comes back. And I think, circle back to that and to the beginning here to end today, because I've been talking for almost a half an hour already. And not really said too much either. Perfect in its own way. Perfectly me. Thank you so much if you've stuck with this sort of stream of consciousness, blabbing. But I do think that sharing these types of integrating points about terms and words and phrases that these images and symbols and these sort of anchored social standpoints that we have, they're like freeze framed everywhere, breaking them down more and not trying to burn them down and ruin them and say, oh, they should have never happened, and cut them out and don't allow anything to get near that again or represent that again or anything like that. But just to create movement in them and to allow it And the flexibility in itself will weed out the inconsistencies and allow that real truth to shine through even brighter. Because truth should never fear questions. Truth should never fear movement or adaptations or tailor fittings, because in itself, truth, I believe, and truth is perfection. So I think I'm speaking kind of the two here at the same time. The word perfection reflects truth. And so truth can be seen as, like I've said, it's templistic. And that means, as an example, truth can mean a shirt. And what is a shirt? Well, a shirt is a garment that has place for armholes and a head hole. And then it has the abdomen, the body of the shirt. Now, anyone and everyone gets to create their own favorite shirt. Is it long sleeve? Is it short sleeve? What color is it? What fabric is it made out of? As long as it follows the same truths, which it cannot not follow it, because otherwise it wouldn't be a shirt, then it is developing, in a fractalized sense, its own true discovery of what a shirt is. And much like we see the spiral in nature represented everywhere. And it's on pine cone, it's in a sunflower, it's on a seashell. These are truths. And they give us guidance to tell us the secret of our own truth, which is that we are perfection. We are this unchangeable, changing paradox. And so, feel free. I try to tell myself and encourage others always to feel free in the movements, to finding who you are, and just to going through these cycles of peeling back layers and circling around the center, to beat the ground, to walk the path, because the path is worn by walking. So make that path around and around your truth. But remember that it isn't merely cyclitic. You aren't going nowhere. It's a spiraled helixing, which is drawing you closer to brighter light, to more clarity. And each time that you go around that circle, you see more, because it's more well lit. You have more knowledge points. You have more conscious awareness. Adaptation has been accumulated since the last roundabout. And so appreciate that. And then, try to love and sense where you're at, and follow that inner calling towards the truth. And know that it's a gradient. What I started talking about initially with the spirals, Fibonacci sequence, and this notion of how organic grows in a gentle way. It's seemingly apparent. It's a flowing, neutrality, symbiotic relationships, give and take, that happens. And when we notice these relationships within our own selves, and you start to observe them and appreciate them, you start to be more consciously aware of better decisions consciously, logically, discernment in scenarios with others, in circumstances, how you reply, how you react and respond to things, how you go about problem solving, troubleshooting, and project building. Smaller gradients of choice with more ease, flexibility, and fluidity, easier solutions start popping through. A more gentle gradient of change happens to bring in the next phase more clearly, with more stability, to be more aware in each phase of the stages of the sequential growth that you're going through. Only helps and eases productivity. It makes each moment better. And when you start to know that you're the controller of the amplification nodule, the volume knob, you get to up and down and focus in your awareness mechanism to how much you notice and to how much you enliven and pay attention to each moment. The gradient of your truth seeking becomes more spiraled, more soft, more beautiful, more harmonious, inwardly and outwardly. Those sharp, quick changes of judgment, those harsh movements, those strict jabs, and those cutting turns that can harm others out there, that harm yourself even, that cramp you up, that cause these sort of forced stoppings and these sort of turning of your back. All of those fast attack movements are not never necessary, are not happening as much, or because you are more aware in the gradient build up to that you move away from it in a better way before it's needed. Think of and I'm thinking of kind of as a great reference as this the non-action based karate and martial arts. I forget the exact sort of name of it, and I probably massacre it anyways if I try to say it, but it's this entire branch of martial arts, and that is not attack based whatsoever. It's only defensive. There's no offensive movements, and in fact you move with the energy of the attack of the coming at you. You use their momentum in a very passive way that's not strenuous to you at all, that you just miss it. You just move out of the way at the right time, and then they fall on their face, and you use their energy to sort of just put them down, to incapacitate them, or to get out of their own way, and their attack doesn't harm you. It's all based on these very woo ways. I forget it. I think woo is part of it, of this. There's Zen thinkings around this too, about the struggles of the world that are also great tangible exercises to sort of understand that. But this is recognizing the perfection underneath and knowing your portion and knowing your place and staying in your lane, respecting the rest of the picture enough to not go scribble over somebody else's section. Not to, on the highway, be doing something else so that you drift into the other lane and crash into somebody. No, stay, watch, pay attention. Be responsible. You chose to drive. Now pay attention and stay in your lane the whole time you're driving. Pay attention that need be, because you have gotten on the ride. You've chosen to do the drive, In the perfect world, of course, we would all be knowing this. And I said I've wrapped it up, and I've talked for 10 minutes longer. Maybe I'll come back another time, and I really want to start doing this. It's just talking about for a little while, allowing these imagination exercises for myself, sort of brainstorming sessions, which I'd love to hear other people's opinions on these things as well, about what it would look like in that quote-unquote perfect world, if everybody could step into sovereignty and work at this 51% neutrality of service to others. Aiming towards it, even having it in a cognitive awareness touch point for their life, that momentarily, day by day, it might slip through their mind that they might think about, that if we could even get that at a crucial point of just mainstreams, everyone sort of understanding that, I think the shifts would be, monumental, exponential. And that in itself, even just talking about what that kind of stuff and place in problem solving, systems building, what quote unquote industry would look like, although I think it would be so much different that we would need different words. We might not call it that. Industrialized really brings to mind manufacturing operations and sort of this chain line of very linear breakdown. I think that there's a surface level, tangible tool in this sort of visualization of understanding the sort of operation belt, you know what I mean, the manufacturing stages. And if we had, if you worked on like a operations line, you know, there is a working parable metaphors that I love to bring into this to help create the sort of ladder or this velvet rope, this lead that I like to see along the way. It's like a wall or a handle when you're going up the stairs, you know, or if you were swimming, they have the guardrail along the side of the pool, you know, that you can kind of hold on to and swim around the edge, you know, or railing for stairs, you know, but having that while you build the muscles is so helpful. And seeing these this sort of systems instructions as that guidance point, so that knowing that each very dynamic and very freely flowing, fluid, operational architecture is alive and ever-changing. But through its alive, ever-changingness, there is structure to follow. There are laws and rules that each conscious cellular piece in its cognitive placement in the whole has the right and sovereign will to be a part of or not, to choose to follow its command or not to. And I mean, this has really dynamic consequences. This is what I like to describe as a 360-degree ripple effect, where all points, input and output decisions, all potentialities that could happen are reflected upon and acknowledged consciously through the awareness. I see every point, as many as I could possibly want to point to I can see that are relevant, and I choose this one. And that makes the charge of the choice and the directionality of the focus of creator consciousness funneled and charged with a, you know, highly charged with a strong gradient, versus having a channeled forethought already corralled and fenced in that you believe you have to go through, and you try to jam your conscious rippled effect in that way on purpose. Do you see the difference of capacity? This is a great example of visualization between how positive system flows versus negative alignment forcing flow in a preconceived manner. And yeah, they'll tell you, oh, we've looked at all the potentials for you, and this way is the best way, so go that way. But it doesn't honor, acknowledge in full sovereign 360-degree truth and honesty all points. And in that dishonorment that they say this point is that point, go this way, you are disengaging and turning a blind eye to that true rippled effect. And that in immediate sense has a negative alignment. It is inconsistent and unfair to the whole, and it causes a dissonance in the rippled effects and distortions that are not helpful. And the energetics of it is disrupted as well. So allowing and seeing what could happen when there's more free-flowing positive thinkings and exchanges happening, to more actual freedom of directionality, to where creator consciousness can really go and flow where it would like to, uninhibited, at a strength, speed, and velocity that feels comfortable and natural to it. What could happen? You know? Quite beautiful things to think about. There's so much perfection, and I think this type of perfection honors true happenings more, to where we're not putting rose-tinted glasses on and creating false utopia senses in a negative sense out there, but to where we're allowing, consciously saying in agreement that all parts of this whole thing, that thing is being rippled, so the thing that's here, the energetics of it is continuously connected and does want what's best for itself and each piece of it. That there isn't some kind of harmful enemy there or outside of it that is a constant threat of harm and hurt, of dislike or hate, or this sort of disconnected piece. That, that yes, there is inconsistencies and incorrect happenings, but that those have happened because, like I have said, there's conscious allowance of choice at each conscious level, cellular level, from cosmic, astrologically, all the way down to microscopic cell, and even smaller than that. We could get down into, particles and quarks, if you'd like. To say that there's a conscious lens available to creator oneness, infinite creator consciousness can dive through different layers and lenses and view life at that segment of happenings. And, there's different gradients across that whole scale. Humanity is just but one. But God, source creation, I believe, has all of them. Designed, in fact, the fact to be able to do that. Like, how do you even question with how do you compete with anything like that? How do you not understand that this is for our highest good? And that just be a part of it. Just do your highest good. Just find your highest good, and all else will figure itself out. It was set up to do that. Why do we need to question about if that's true or not when it works perfectly? When you can look out and watch the flowers and the bees do it. Pun intended and not intended there. That's the perfect truth. That's the alignments. It's spiraling towards our truths. Everything else is extras. It's wrinkles on top. It's a special zipper in the front. Let's not just be confused that all of a sudden now our shirt's allowed a zipper. Some people want a zipper and some people don't. It's a coat or a shirt. Do we really have to have arguments about that, though? Isn't it just beautiful that God creator consciousness, in some locations, it's hot and you need to open the air it out. And in other locations, it's freezing and you probably would never want to do that. Can't we just marvel at the capacity of infinite intelligence and innovation that is the thumbprint of God, Creator Source's image, to be able to innovate and change and adapt to things around us, to problem solve, to make things more pleasant for our embodiment of life here, of time, of the experience of being alive. To make things more helpful, to make things feel better, or to look better, or to please our eye or our hearts, or to help another in some kind of way. And of course, then people be like, oh, what about the perversions? Oh, what about the inversions and all people who would seek to manipulate another or do something that was inappropriate, or want to insert something that because it's some kind of degraded, disgusting way or something. And I just think that if we honestly look at, in this perfect sense, if, like I've said, we could create and talk about for a moment that perfection, that those type of malalignments that create those inorganic, improper desires would be recognized before they culminated into something so external, because the inner world of the actual person would have enough internal reflection, conversation, transparency, and honesty with the self to see and recognize the harm beforehand, because there's self-harm inside that's happened before external symptomatic repercussions push and force one to harm another or to act out symptomatically in a physical way some kind of harmful thing. But if we were consciously aware enough and had consciously aware mentors around us in the space to recognize the subtle issues and provide corrective measures in unconditional love honored ways, sovereignly, respecting and infusing self-love and reflection of love for all, service to others, and remembering that there's a whole and putting the self in positive proportional reflection to the whole, bringing yourself in a ratio that is helpful to you, others encouraging you to do that and living by that around you, you being able to witness how others correctively alchemize their light and shadow. I just don't think that would be much of happening that often. But again, we haven't been allowed to get there to really speak on that, and so it's difficult to imagine and to not have a lot of infringing tickles in my throat and all of these side conversations and attack comments and contrasting opinions and sort of debate debacles within corners from my shadowed thoughts about what are this and this person could think that, and but also letting those, like I've said, we would take all of those in and see them and allow them to be proportionally measured to how much of the social whole really does feel that way, to bring in true light and to honor things where they're at. But again, I think that's sort of this seeking of neutrality is that balancing act. Okay. Oh my gosh, I just noticed the time, and I'm almost at an hour. I really am going to sign off now, even though I said that 20 minutes ago, and then I started talking again. Thank you so much for sticking with me. If you lasted this long and have listened to me the whole time, I truly do appreciate your energies, your love, your audience, your listening ears and heart. Thank you for your contribution to our collective. Thank you for your good works. I do appreciate it so much. So does the collective. Thank you for witnessing and honoring my time and hearing my words and my contributions. If you are looking for more from me at any time, you can find plenty of more videos here on my secondary YouTube channel if that's what you're finding me on aMarieSpeaks too. I do have my original channel, aMarieSpeaks, which I'm locked out of, but there's still almost 300 videos back there. Lots of good series and sections, informational learning with different visuals and kind of teaching type of videos that I was doing. I haven't done those in a little while. More on my new channel is podcasts and personal sort of discussional videos. But if you are looking for teaching, metaphysical videos, shadow work, and systems things, I have a bunch of videos on my old channel. But if you're finding me on BitChute, then hey, they're all there in one place. Thanks for finding me. And you can always find me also on my website, aMarieSpeaks.com. Over there, not only is there a bunch of stuff about me, my personal life and services, and my writing and blogs, but also I have Tools tab, which has separate categories of all things introspection, spirituality, and happiness to help on your eternal student journey. References, third-party books and video sites that I have found helpful on my own journey and learning. So you could check that out in your own free time. If you're ever looking for new information or some kind of new bread trail to get onto, you could find some good starting points over there. Thank you for joining again. I guess I'm signing off. Have a wonderful day or evening wherever in the world you are. Thank you, and I will see you next time.